everyone, and welcome back to the Content Mix. I'm Carlota Pico, your host for today's show, and I'm excited to be here today with Kayleigh Thomas, who is EMEA Regional Marketing Manager at Core Wireless and has over 10 years of experience in marketing and communications. Welcome, Kayleigh, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Content Mix.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Well, the pleasure is ours. Okay, Kayleigh, so I actually have a joke for you to break the ice. Are you ready? Why did the Cookie Monster apply for a marketing job?
Oh, it's got to be something about a cookie cutter exercise there, hasn't there?
Kind of. Okay.
Go on, tell me.
He heard they were tracking cookies.
Oh, no.
It's one of those awful jokes, but you know what? I'm actually a big fan of awful jokes. I find them quite funny.
It's a good one, to be fair.
Okay, Kayleigh, so tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into marketing and what's your day-to-day like at Core Wireless?
Sure. So funnily enough, I actually started at university doing business studies and economics as a degree. So I ended up having a very small module that was part of marketing in my foundation. You sort of try a lot of things as part of, studying business. And I just enjoyed it so much. And I got so bored of break analysis sheets in economics. I completely changed to marketing, and I just enjoyed it a lot. And in fact, I then did a master's at St Andrews straight afterwards. So I just really, really enjoyed it. And then being able to go straight into work in a marketing exec role for a financial tech company was it just made me enjoy it even more. And I realised that tech marketing was definitely where my strengths were. My day-to-day at Core is extremely varied. I've got a jack of all trades. My manager calls me Swiss Army knife of marketing. So whether it's writing content, it's working with the product teams and launching, I own a couple of products, or it's working with the Australian team in campaigns and event management, webinar planning, social media, all sorts. I'm extremely lucky. I get to I get my fingers in a lot of pies, a lot of marketing pies.
Yeah, sounds like it. Very exciting. So what is Core Wireless?
So Core is an Internet of Things company, commonly seen as IoT. Mm-hmm. They're an independent telecommunications company that advises businesses in their IT deployments. The goal is to deliver transformational business performance from their IoT solutions. So they come to us rather than, for example, a Vodafone or a O2 or Orange, because we are independent. And we help them identify, evaluate, contract and manage multiple network connectivity providers, equipment manufacturers, and professional services. So a lot of this is a bit like when I first started in IoT, I was like, whoosh. So a really good example is we've got a customer called Stedin. They're a utilities company. They have hundreds of thousands of smart meters in the field. And those smart meters, a bit like what we have at home, do automatic reading, and those devices are kept in the field for like 10 to 15 years. So they need connectivity that's future-proofed, that can ping that information off and make their devices connected. And so we provide the global advanced connectivity services and a carrier-independent application so they can see all their services without the need to change their physical SIM. So that's what we do.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. So I think you're doing a social media outreach campaign right now on LinkedIn. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We found, as probably you have as well, with face-to-face events cancelling and a lot of your readership as well, is how are you going to generate those marketing qualified leads? How are you going to talk to that targeted audience without being able to have those sort of industry-specific events to go to? So we sort of digitized it. We started an outreach campaign via LinkedIn. We utilized LinkedIn Navigator to provide us that targeted segmentation method. And then we use very specific messaging and dynamic text to basically approach those people that ordinarily would have attended those events and discuss how we're helping people like them get the business transformation from IoT. And I do equate it with being an event, right? It's a grassroots campaign. Some people will walk by and ignore your stand. Some people go, hey, what do you do? But we've had some people that have said, hey, what's cost for this? Yes, we actually got a project ongoing. We'd love to have you on board. We've had some RFPs because of it. So I think that due to COVID, especially now, and the big rise in digital technology, we've been able to capitalize on that. So I think there's also a growing acceptance on that sort of outreach as well. I think people are more open because they ultimately want to learn what's happening in their industry. And without those face-to-face events, I think there's only so many webinars you really want to join. So it's sort of a new and cool way of trying to get to those people. So we've been really impressed, and we've now launched it globally. So I'm super proud, and we're doing really, really well.
Well, congratulations on that, Kayleigh. So what does the outreach campaign actually look like? Is it paid advertisement? Is it messaging? Is it talking on different groups? What's the format?
Great question. So the idea is that we pull together some specific segments, and then we use targeted messaging. So in mails and programmatic messaging on a drip series. So 3 messages. So the first one will be, hey, we utilize a senior member of our team. And so I won't say his name because I haven't got consent. But hey, for example, James, I work with Core Wireless, and we're working with companies X, Y, and Z that are achieving X, Y, and Z by utilizing some of our solutions. We'd love to talk to you about how we can help you. And then as you sort of go down this drip series, if you do engage with us, then you come out and we can have that conversation, and they'd have to sort of actually raise their hand and say, hey, we do want to talk to you. Or obviously if they say, no, we don't, then we don't want to communicate to them either. Moving through to the end, which is, look, we don't want to clutter up your inbox. Here's some information we'd love to share with you. Here's a starter kit, a free starter kit. If you know where we are. So if your situation changes and you do want to grab hold of us, do. So it's a really non-confrontational way of talking to people, but not like doorstepping people in a telemarketing sense. And I know not all telemarketing's like that. I'm not going to tar it with the same brush. But that's kind of why I equate it to events, because if people want to engage, they'll respond. But if they don't, they just ignore you. So it's been surprisingly good. I thought we'd get more people ignoring us, but people have been really upfront and saying, hey, here's my email address, send me over some information. And it's been really positive.
Okay, excellent. Very interesting. So since it's a global campaign now, are you also like localizing those messages for different audience target groups?
Yeah, absolutely. That's extremely important. So putting your plan together of who are you talking to? What are the job titles? What are the personas? What are the key words? Then making sure that when you reference the companies that you're working with that are just like them, make sure that they are just like them. So they were, for example, if you're talking to utilities, you're talking about smart meters that, I mentioned studying earlier. You're talking about devices in the field. You're talking about connected water and digital, and all that kind of stuff. Don't start mentioning tech companies that have got nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important to make sure that the content is specific to them, because if it's generalized, I don't answer LinkedIn stuff, so why should they?
That's a really good point. That's a very good point. Okay, Kayleigh, since you have a fair amount of experience in product launches, could you walk me through great examples of product launch content that either you've created or have seen elsewhere?
Yeah, for sure. So product launches have been and continue to be a key part of what I do. And there are various strings to a product launch. A lot of people just jump to the brand new product, but it can be migrations, end of lives, cross-sell, upsell opportunities. There's so much that's actually involved as part of a new version or a new product. So when I look at the sort of key things that I think about and great examples of product launch content, they're sort of built around 3 key elements. Know your product, right? And the value of the product is so key for that. Know your audience and who you're talking to. And finally, which kind of leads on to more of what you're talking about, is finding what is the right type of content to attract them. So if I run through those 3 points, as a marketer, you need to have a basic understanding of what the product does. What is its unique selling points? What is it that makes a customer want to buy it or upgrade to it? Knowing the audience, I mean, we kind of touched on that anyway, but to be able to target your message successfully, you need to know who you should be talking to. Job titles, existing products. This helps curate the content, to help you find the right events. And you will have different content types for different audience segments as well. And you won't always use the same content for a customer as you would a prospect. I mean, it's quite obvious to you and me. People try and use the same thing and then wonder why they don't get the same results. And I've actually found in this that when I worked at a previous company, my first one in financial technology, when we used to curate comms, I used to actually go up to the financial controller upstairs and go, hey, this email or this asset, would you open the email? You know, does this matter to you? And as that person who is actually I'm selling to, I would actually ask them if that was the right thing and go, oh no, we wouldn't say that, we'd actually tweak it, or actually that's more important, or you're missing this. You've actually got great resources in your own company that you should really bounce off of. And I don't see a lot of people do that. And marketing end up sort of being siloed in the content creation machine. And you've got a lot of resources in your company that you can utilize. So that's one of my biggest tips. And then the right content, so the third kind of column. If their persona prefers podcasts over guides, or ebooks over videos, and infographics over white papers. Now, it's really key to understand that if you're talking to C-level, they will completely interact with different types of content and different types of events and publications than you will someone who's just starting out in their career, that's that's at a manager level. So that's really key to understand. Now, 9 times out of 10, you probably need a blended mix of all of those. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at launching products, it's key to understand the consideration, awareness, and purchase stages. So when you're getting somebody on that journey, you need to get their interest. So infographics, high-level little videos, a bit like what we're doing, to get their interest. And then they go, okay, I kind of want to know more. Then you move through to the white papers and even something more chunky, the webinars. Yeah. And then you want to, then you get more product orientated and you move through to the purchase stage where you go through case studies, starter kits, consultations, hopefully going, hey, let's really talk about how this product really supports you. So those are where I really see product launches and content being used in the right way. Okay, so you've already touched upon this a little bit, but why do you think product launches sometimes fail? There's one, before I really answer, there's one main thing. Always ask yourself, so what, right? It's also known as the features into benefits. If you're writing something and you don't ask yourself, so what? Okay, this has got a nice cool dongle. Yeah, but so what? Does it save me half an hour of my time? Does it save me X amount of pounds a month? What is that actually delivering to me that I would care about? So I think that's one really key element. When product launches fail, they could fail for loads and loads of reasons. They never hit deadline. It could be product management, resources, executive leadership, budget, you name it, loads of things can go wrong. But if we stick to the marketing element, it's probably because the content or the creative hasn't hit the mark. And it's probably one of those 3 pillars that we spoke about. And we've seen a lot of US companies think that the same thing will work there that it will do in Europe. Doesn't work that way. Regionalization is really key, but it is easily rectifiable. You're not always going to hit it out the park 100% of the time. You've probably heard this. Marketing is a social science. It's a lot of common sense. You try something, you ask why it worked or why it didn't work. You look at the data, you change what you do. There was a recent quote from Business Insider, and they said less than 3% of new consumer packaged goods exceed their first year of sales, which is super, super tough. But then if you focus on the marketing side of where businesses have used it to their advantage, if you look at Carlsberg, like 40 years, they spoke about probably the best beer in the world, and they got slated and slated and slated. And then in 2019, they used that consumer insight and turned it on its head to probably not the best beer in the world. And they did such a fantastic job. They used their social media resources to promote messages that said, so for example, one guy put, "My pint of Carlsberg tastes like naan bread." And they paid and promoted it. And it worked for them. They took a negative element, utilized the kind of social media element of their product launch strategy, and changed it in such a fantastic way that it got people talking, it got people sharing, and they ended up doing so well. They started building in other sort of prestige brands that they built in the value and kept the kind of Carlsberg Basic at a cheaper price. So there are so many examples that we could speak about forever, but this one just makes me giggle.
Yeah, and it made me giggle as well. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. So, Kayleigh, basically to relaunch a failed product, and really your recommendation would be to rely on data, to zoom into the data that you have at the moment, figure it out, understand it, and then tweak your messaging according to those stats.
Yeah, data-driven decisions, always. It could be from the emails when you open and click rates. Did people convert well? Which links worked? A/B split testing. Social media, ones with images, did they work? Ones without images, did they work? Is it regional? When you translated it, did the message translate well, or did it really not hit a point? Were you using the wrong colours in the, with red and China, you've got to be very careful with, and utilization of some terms in when you translate don't always work. So there is always a way to turn stuff around, but you just need that data to go, where did I go wrong? And some of it can not always be data, some of it's instinct of where you've done things in previous roles, and ask for help. There is no harm in asking a fellow colleague and someone of your team, or asking someone you've worked with previously, or sometimes you'll ask LinkedIn and go, "Hey, I did this campaign and what the hell did I do wrong?" And sometimes it's bad luck, but getting more minds on it and more ideas can only help.
Okay, what about like emotionally speaking? How do you recover from a failed product launch?
So there's my non-business head, which goes, a glass of wine does a lot. Okay.
I agree.
So definitely a glass of wine. But that initial hit of, oh, I've spent this money and I'm not seeing the numbers, and I'm getting those emails in going, what's happening, what's going on? And you have that sinking feeling and you go, oh, you just want to cry sometimes, but you just got to breathe and then go back to the numbers. Okay, so what went wrong? I am only human, but don't come to your management or your team or with the problem. Come with a solution. Always come with a solution. So if engagement was really low on this, go, I think engagement was really low because we didn't do polling, or we chose the wrong type of content, or it just wasn't strong enough. How about we try this way? How about we look at doing this? I've seen in previous roles or done with previous campaigns, this has worked quite well. What do you think? Allow people to collaborate and feel part of the solution as well. Mm-hmm. And you'll get people behind you 110%.
What about talking to like your sales team or your commercial team as well? People that have their feet on the ground to better understand how that audience is going to resonate with the product. Do you also talk across your different departments to come up with a solution?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether it's our inside sales team that are calling up on the back of campaigns, whether it's our field sales team who see the bottom funnel and it sees it come through, but that 360-degree feedback loop is so important. So I have 2 weekly calls with my sales leader for EMEA. I have bi-weekly calls with my leader out in Australia. It's really important to understand what they're seeing in the market, what struggles they're having, because it's not just about, marketing isn't just about launching campaigns, it's also enabling sales. Yeah. Hearing sales, what do they need? Are they having trouble in the RFP? Do they need some collateral or supporting information that helps them with their conversations and deals? It's important you listen to sales. If you don't, you're going to fail. And they will not follow up and support you either. It's a mutual collaboration. Without us, they don't get sales as much. Without them, we don't get our marketing leads followed up on and sales off the back of it. So it's definitely a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we are going to finish this section up on a happy note. So could you walk me through some of your proudest marketing moments? So what made those projects stand out? What made them special?
Yeah, for sure. Do you know what? I was thinking about this morning, and it actually just made me smile. So I used to work for a well-known security company. And I remember coming in, I was a little bit junior, but they'd never used webinars as a power for marketing avenues previously at all, which was quite strange for me coming into an enterprise. And I thought, I was a bit worried actually that they'll be so established, there's nothing I can do to contribute actually. And they paid for this platform that really just sat there. And so I sort of stuck my little hand up and said, can I take over this? I've got some ideas. And they said, okay, go on, let's see what you can do. And I mean, the results speak for themselves, and I'm more than happy to share those results. But it comes down to delivering the right content to the right people. And it became, I'm so super proud that even when I've gone now, it's still a front leader to a lot of their marketing activities. And in a few years, subscribers to our content went from 3,000 to 35,000.
Wow.
We drove $3 million of pipeline. And it was just one of those things which just always made me smile. When anybody asked me about numbers, I never worried. And there was, you talk about regionalisation, you and I had a chat just prior to this video, right? And so there we worked with 7 different core countries, and we needed to regionalise. And I worked with the Italian team, a lovely girl, Isabella. And with the security side of things, you have these threat viruses and hacks and things like that. So we would have a response, and one was called Dragonfly. And working with the Italian team, because they got hit rather hard, and we created a just-in-time threat response webcast and email experience alongside a LinkedIn, funnily enough, advert and social strategy. And it's been my all-time highest ranking webinar with 1,042 registrations and nearly 1,500 views at the time. It was insane. And I still have it as one of my campaign highlights. And it comes down to the right time, the right content to the right people. And I still look on that very fondly.
Oh, congratulations on that, Kayleigh. It must be a great response also to give it an interview, right? Like, tell me about your accomplishments. Well, actually.
Oh, it was not. It was really nice to reminisce and just go back to those days of kind of the threat response and long hours, but just really, really good reward, really, really good reward. And just I worked with such an amazing team. So it was nice for me to go down memory lane, actually.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that part of our interview. Okay, we are going to be moving into our set of rapid fire questions, which are basically your recommendations for our audience. To get this section straight off, I'd like to ask you about your source of inspiration. So, for example, an influencer or professional role model that you really admire and has inspired you.
No, that's a great question. I've worked with many superb male and female leaders across my time, especially in tech. But there's 2 very strong female leaders in a very male-dominated industry that I would like to push up. Sarah Tukey, I learned a lot from her concerning business strategy, thinking about the wider business aspect and not just the marketing element. And more recently, Jessica Garrett. She really, really understood the power of demand generation and programmatic marketing, and really good to bounce a lot of ideas off. So in 2 different ways, learned some immense things from those 2 ladies. And I know they're doing very, very well.
Excellent. Okay. And what about a resource? So, for example, a book, a publication, an event, a community, something that you find extremely valuable?
Absolutely. So in my role, as I touched on product marketing, I do end up following a lot more that's industry-led. So IoT evolution, IoT now, loads of stuff with IoT in the name. But I do like marketingweek.com. It gives a lot of flavored articles and interest across the business and the consumer world.
Yeah, I'm very much like yourself as well. Since I lead our podcast, I'm right now reading Larry King's autobiography because obviously he's an excellent interviewer. And my next book will hopefully be Oprah's autobiography.
Okay, so you quite like the auto biopics and things.
You know what? I'd never been into it until I started doing interviews just 2 months ago for our podcast. And now I'm all about these autobiographies from these excellent interviewers. Okay, and what about your favorite app at the moment, Kayleigh? What would that be, especially during Corona times?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my personal favorite app is probably Amazon Prime at the moment. While I'm walking the dog, I like to listen in to a lot of TV and films and stuff, but I can't always watch stuff at home. But I'm not going to lie, Teams, it's so heavily used at the moment. Now, whether it's Teams or GoTo or Zoom or what have you, it's just become an absolute lifeblood of business communication. And just having this sort of interaction where I can see your face and feel a bit more real, it's certainly been one of my favorite apps.
Yeah, me too. For us, we use a lot Google Hangouts and Slack.
Yeah.
And Slack, I mean, I love it. Also, Basecamp has been, it's not a tool that I use right now, but in my former life, I used to use Basecamp in my everyday job because I would be managing projects remotely. And it really helped me to manage my team in different markets from the other side of the world, basically.
Oh, absolutely. I've used Basecamp, Monday.com, Airtable.
Yeah, all of those. Well, excellent, Kayleigh. Thank you so much for joining us on the Content Mix. It was a pleasure to meet you and to talk about product launches and so many other marketing topics.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And also best of luck with your LinkedIn campaign.
Cheers. Thank you.
And to everybody listening in today, thank you for joining us on the Content Mix. For more perspectives on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out the Content Mix. We'll be releasing interviews just like this one every day, so keep on tuning in. Thanks again. Have a fabulous day and see you next time. Bye.